Hi, and welcome to the Bruce channel. I'm Bruce, and it's been an interesting week and a half. Not that you care a lot about my weather, I get that. But we just completed the third wettest May on record, and that's not that big of a deal, except for the first time in a number of years there was no official drought at any level anywhere in the state of North Carolina. Over the last couple of years, dozen or so years actually, I've experienced a good deal of drought. I lost some trees, I've lost bushes, so I'm glad it's wet, which probably explains why I have more lilies than ever before. Of course, we're now in June, and June's arrival also marks the arrival of hurricane season. One way to avoid a drought is to have a tropical system bring you several inches of rain, but no one here or anywhere else wants a hurricane. The season peaks mid-September. Last year's Hurricane Matthew came in October. It didn't do much in Florida, Georgia, or South Carolina, but here it did a lot, and I remember because we were filmmaking in it. I love filmmaking, but if we postponed that day whatever, so we did it. Speaking of filming, we'll talk about it later. Okay, sometimes it is right and proper to take notice of coincidences, even if we don't ascribe mystical qualities to them. After all, it's our ability to discern patterns that has led our species to discover how to build things, how to make things, how to fly things, and use things to communicate. So, all right, enough prelude. Early in April, I'd mentioned that longtime award-winning broadcaster Frank DeFord said with some joy and maybe reverence in his voice that the real first day of spring is tomorrow. He was alluding to the Thursday when the first round of this year's Masters tournament would begin. And then I told you scarcely a month later how shocked I was to hear that he said he was making his last Wednesday commentary on May the 3rd. I said that he looked rather frail, but that I'd hoped he'd have lots of good years left. He didn't. Frank DeFord died last Sunday at the age of 78. No official cause of death is known. Maybe they're keeping private, that's fine. Reportedly he was having some pulmonary problems. So, was all that a coincidence? Who knows? I know this, to die at age 78 is not to have been cheated. And after all, as has been said, vita est causa mortis. The cause of death is life. Thank you, Mr. DeFord, for having shared parts of yours with us. All right, toward the end of the week, I was feeling pretty down. Donald Trump listens to those with clear vested interest and takes us out of the Paris Climate Accord. He didn't even listen to his daughter. Why, in the name of whatever you hold holy, would anyone risk their kids and grandkids? And I've said this before, too. By design, I've got no kids, so no grandkids. So my kids and grandkids won't be cursing me. I'd like it if everybody's kids and grandkids were not cursing them. I'd like them to inherit a living, sustainable planet, so I'll continue to make noise now and again. Still, it really was disappointing. Then later I saw this. Now I like it. I should point out that while it's memorable and pithy, it's not authentic. It's not an old Cree proverb. The earliest record that even comes close was from a report from the State Fish and Game Commission of North Dakota. In 1894, the report mentions the last tree and the last fish, but that's about it. In 1972, there was a talk at Harvard University. It was given by an American Mohawk. And he said that someday President Nixon and the other world leaders are going to find out that once they catch the last fish, once they cut down the last tree, they won't be able to eat all the money they have in the banks. That's what he said. It has a nice ring, but it won't change anything, and I was feeling pretty down. But then on Friday, I discovered this.
One man cannot destroy our progress. One man can't stop our clean energy revolution. And one man can't go back in time. Only I can do that. President Trump says he's pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement. My message to you, Mr. President, is that as a public servant, especially as a president, your first most important responsibility is to protect the people. 200,000 people die every year in the U.S. from air pollution. And half of our rivers and streams are too polluted for our health. We can't sit back and just do nothing while people are getting sick and dying, especially when you know there's another way. Mr. President, I know that it can be easier and more comfortable to look backwards. And to many people, the past we know is less scary than the future that we don't know. But some of us know what a clean energy future looks like. And it isn't scary. We have seen it in cities and states and all over the world. In fact, we know that the dirty energy future with asthma, emphysema, and cancer is much, much more terrifying. So please, Mr. President, choose the future. No one remembers the people who told President Kennedy not to go to the moon. We remember the great leaders. The great leaders that don't walk backwards into the past, but great leaders that charge forward towards the future. You see, the people will rise up. Local and state governments will rise up. Other leaders from local government will rise up and fill the void that you are creating. Like all the great movements in human history, our clean future starts with a grassroots movement in our communities, our cities, and our states. 70% of our dirty emissions can be controlled at the state and local level. We can't leave it to Washington, D.C. to lead. No, we need to do it ourselves. As a matter of fact, when I was governor of California and Washington failed to lead, we passed the strictest environmental rules in our country, and our economy is now booming. Today we are number one in protecting our environment, and we are number one in economic growth. We have the cleanest air and water, and we also have more manufacturing jobs than any other state. We added more jobs last year than the second and the third states combined. Protecting the environment will not destroy our economy. The bottom line is great environmental policies do the opposite. They pump up the economy. Share this video if you think it's time to start a grassroots revolution to save our planet.
Now, he is not the only Republican who opposes coming out of the Accord, but he's Conan the Republican. And I know California's economy. I knew it was doing pretty well, but I didn't know it was doing that well. So I'm pretty sure of a couple different things. No matter what, in the Accord, out of the Accord, the coal industry will continue to decline. It is dirty. Nobody wants it. There's a shrinking market, and natural gas is cheaper. 2, clean energy's cost is coming down. It will not always have to be subsidized. I remember when calculators came out replacing adding machines. Electric adding machines could do some equations like percentages, nothing like sine or cosine, but they could do some things, but they did it. You punch in the things and you start it and go, and the gears would turn and the tape was running, 20 seconds perhaps. And then I saw a desktop calculator. It was like the size of a laptop. It could do the same things as the big adding machine, and not in several seconds, and not in half a second, instantly. It was the most amazing thing. No gears, you touched it, you heard nothing. They cost hundreds of dollars. Now, really amazing ones, more powerful, what, a couple of bucks? So technology costs come down. Those two conclusions lead to a third, presupposing that we don't blow each other up. The newer, cleaner innovations will come from somewhere. And again, if we don't blow each other up, that is inevitable. The new jobs will go where they make the new technology, so we can decide to compete with the rest of the world's economies. But if we don't, we will lose by default. We once did things that were important. We once led in things that were important. Maybe we almost misunderstood what the guy was saying. Maybe he was saying, make America late again.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds. Not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came and it stayed. For years I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
All right, welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at the Bruce Channel at yahoo.com. You can watch all of our previous shows at either our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. Early in the show, I'd mentioned acting. Let me tell you, an actor's life is fraught with juxtaposition. You can quote me. I wonder if any of you might have seen the PBS documentary Kitty Hawk, The Wright Brothers' Journey of Invention. It originally aired in 2003, coinciding with the first flight, the 100-year anniversary of the first flight of the Wright brothers. Producer David Garrigus is at it again. This time he's producing a 5-night TV event on the American Constitution. Not so much a reading of it, but the story of how it came to be. Not so much came to be written, but how it came to be ratified. I have no idea when it will air. I do not think it is imminent. Anyway, I played a delegate to the Massachusetts Constitutional Convention, where the delegates were deciding whether or not to ratify, and that's why the whiskers of the last couple of weeks. So, in preparing for the role, I learned some things that I did not know, or at least I didn't remember if I ever did know them. Yes, 13 colonies broke free from Great Britain, but then what? I knew there was a constitution. I knew somewhere along the line that it was ratified. What I didn't realize was that it almost didn't happen. There was considerable opposition to it. You know, lots of people, Washington, Madison, yeah, they wanted a country, a union, a federal government, but many, many, many opposed. Among them, a pretty famous guy, Patrick Henry of Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. He was, the governor of Virginia. He was said to be maybe one of the greatest orators of his time, and he was against it. A lot of them equated giving a central government power with being back under the thumb of Great Britain. One conventioner said during his state's convention, if anybody had proposed such a constitution as this in 1775, it would have been thrown away at once. It would not have been looked at. We contended with Great Britain because they claimed a right to tax us and bind us in all cases whatever, and does this constitution not do the same? Preparing for this, I learned of this irony. Today, we hear from the Tea Partiers, and they hold near and dear the Founding Fathers, and they speak of the genius of the Constitution, and that's not exactly true. The Founding Fathers, the ones who gave us the Constitution, like Madison and Washington, were the Federalists. They're the Founding Fathers. The Tea Partiers have more in common with the fellow whom I just quoted. Anyway, the Federalist, anti-Federalist arguments were heated. Sometimes there were fights, and the outcome wasn't certain. My school memories are more like a straight line. Declaration of Independence, war, Yorktown, we agree on becoming a country with a constitution. That's the story that will be presented, that it wasn't assured. Take a look at this.
What gives it legitimacy is the way it was ratified by the American people. The Federalist, anti-Federalist debate is probably the most intellectual debate we have ever had in this country.
To this time, the ratification debates have been given relatively little attention. In some ways, they are the most important.
This year of ratification is nothing less than an American Big Bang.
It's such a radical change and totally unanticipated.
This is the first time in world history anything like that happened. It was a monumental event.
This year is the hinge of human history. Before this year, democracy exists in very few places on the globe. In today's world, democracy is over half the planet, it's on the march, and it's because, I submit, of this 1 year. It was epic.
Now, some of the story I did remember, and likely you do too. The small states didn't trust the big states. That's one of the reasons we have representatives in each state according to population, but big or small, every state gets 2 senators. Still, the Carolinas and Georgia, big in terms of territory, small by population, they were opposed. Then they changed their mind. What changed their mind? The bigger states like Massachusetts and New York and Pennsylvania gave in on slavery. Slaves were only counted as 3/5 of a person, which assured us of a blood schism that to this day hasn't fully healed. Anyway, it's the little-known things that will make this fascinating, I think. You can see the entire clip, not just the part that I showed, but you can see the entire clip at this website. Take a look. And you can also, while you're there, you can browse around. You can read the Constitution. Okay, so remember I had said, quote, an actor's life is fraught with juxtaposition? So there I am, less than a week ago, playing a man standing on the edge of history. But just days before that, my agent let me know of an opportunity I could not ignore. Not that I was very optimistic about it, but for a network show, they were looking for 3, wait for it, drag queens. Yeah, which I know nothing about. And I was working on my constitutional conventioneer demeanor, so I couldn't do anything. My agent said, hey, turn it down if you want, but, it might be fun. So after getting back from the convention, I did record an audition. As I said, I'm not optimistic, but a couple of takeaways I learned. One, I'm really, 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 really bad with makeup. That wouldn't be a problem if I got the role because, I have hair and makeup person, somebody's paid to put it on. But wow, I'm really bad at it. 2, although I'm bad at the makeup, I thought I did a good job getting the prostheses right, or getting the curves right. And the third takeaway, you ladies have to do this every damn day. Right, one last acting note I heard this week from one of the producers of Obamaland. He said getting it together had been a nightmare, but that the premiere would likely be in July and he'd be sending me the info. Don't know where, don't know when, but as always, I'll keep you posted. All right, so as we head on out, let me remind you that today, Sunday, is Hug Your Cat Day. Today is also World Cognac Day. Make sure you don't mix them up. Speaking of juxtaposition, cognac today and like 180 degrees opposite tomorrow. Tomorrow is Moonshine Day. I'm not making this up. Tomorrow's Moonshine Day. Tuesday is Gardening Exercise Day. I'm not making this up either, but I'm pretty sure I never ever have seen a garden doing any exercises. Wednesday, VCR Day. I guess. They still make... Is there also a Guillotine Day? It would seem as apropos. All right. Thursday is Jerky Day, which I like. And then rounding out a fine, fine week of spirits, Saturday is World Gin Day. I see I'm in for quite a week of spiritual behavior. And I pray that your upcoming week is the best you've ever had.